You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Welcome to the Hella Well with Danielle podcast, your weekly mental vacay for the busy woman of color who's on her healing journey and just may need a little bit of guidance on her journey. My name is Danielle Washington and I'm your host. And I'm also a yoga teacher. And as a yoga teacher, I hear many misconceptions about yoga all the time. Like yoga isn't a workout, it's only about stretching. And there's some basic ones we all know and hear about, but there's some myths and some lies that I felt called to shed some light on these things because I feel like they're stopping people from even trying practicing yoga, as well as those who are actually yoginis and practicing yoga. It's stopping them or stifling them from taking their practice to the next level. So if you're new, every episode, I like to start with us tuning in. And what that means is I just want the rest of the world to have several seats. So anything that was stressing you or you're worrying about or is on your to-do list for the short period of time that we are together, we're telling it to be quiet. We're pausing it. We're creating this bubble around us as we collectively come together for this healing moment. And the way I like to do this every episode is to do some breathing. We're just going to do 3 long, deep breathing breath moments. And we're going to inhale and we're going to exhale. And then we're going to get into this juicy moment and give you all some tea. So if you have the moment and if you can, I invite you to close your eyes and take a moment just to breathe. I like to sometimes put my hand over my chest, on my heart, so I'm connecting with my heartbeat. And we're just going to take 3 long, deep inhales and exhales. So begin with me now. Inhale deeply through your nose. And exhale. Inhale deeply. Feeling the air rising all the way to the crown of your top of your head. Then exhaling, seeing the air drop all the way down to the base of your spine. And one last time, let's make this one count. Inhale deep, 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 deep. Hold it for a few seconds. And exhale all the air out of your body. Letting go of what no longer serves you in this moment of time. Honoring that this is your mental vacay for you to get what you need. Allowing someone else to pour into you. And if you haven't already, I invite you to open your eyes and let's get into today's practice. But before we start, I also want to have a quick announcement. If you're in the Bay Area, and even if you're not in the Bay Area, I actually am so honored that 10 Well Collective, which is a collective here in the Bay Area, has invited me to be a presenter at their upcoming Wellbeing Fair that's happening in San Francisco this weekend, March 19th, from 1 to 4 p.m. And so I will actually be presenting around 1:30. So I'll be presenting. You can either join per an hour session. So you can join the 1 o'clock session, 2 o'clock session, 3 o'clock session, or 4 o'clock session. But I will be presenting a mini-Kundalini workshop and meditation. And for those who are actually in person, I'll also be providing on-site private one-on-one Reiki sessions. So if you can't be in the Bay Area, but you want to attend or you want to see what other things that are going on at this wellness fair, you could still join the live stream. So you could be anywhere in the world and you can attend by live stream, or you can attend in person with me in San Francisco. I'll make sure to put information in the show notes about the time frame and how to buy a ticket. I'll also provide a code for the ticket as well. Other than that, I would love to see you. And if you are a listener and you do end up watching, please give me a shout out to say, hey, I heard you on the podcast and I'm here. I love, love, love connecting with other listeners and just kind of building that connection offline. That being said, that's where we are with what's going on currently in my world with announcements. So yoga, as I mentioned before, I'm a yoga teacher. I am a Kundalini yoga teacher and I love yoga. I didn't always love yoga. If you want to hear my story about how I actually hated yoga and how I ended up being a yoga teacher, you should definitely listen to that episode because it kind of sheds light on my story. But I think what stopped me a lot from even getting into yoga years before is because there are so many myths and lies people tell about yoga. And I had people talk to me recently. I was talking to a friend who was like, hey, you should join me for one of the classes. Like, I know you're having these certain things going on. I think it'll be good. And they're like, no, I'm Christian. I don't practice that religion. I'm like, yoga's not a religion. And that's a common one. That's a common one we all know. Like, not we all know. I shouldn't say we all know. But it's a common myth or misconception about yoga that people often tell. But there's some other misconceptions about yoga that I feel like aren't as widely known. And so today we're doing 3 lies and a truth. I thought about doing 2 lies, but I was like, we're just going to round it off with 3 lies about yoga and 1 truth about yoga. So the first lie or misconception or myth, whatever you want to call it, it ain't the truth, is what I'm calling it, is that you instantly are always happy and you enjoy your yoga practice every time. If this was Family Feud, there'd be a big red X like, blah, blah. That's not the right answer because no. And I hate to say this for anyone who's like, oh my God, I thought yoga was all about being zen and blissful and you're just going to feel like you're floating out of the class and it's just going to be this magical moment. It can be those things. It can be amazing. You can feel like a high. I feel like there was a class the other day I took and I was like, I don't need drugs because I literally have my yoga practice. And I do say that oftentimes, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you're not going to feel that high. Sometimes you're going to do practices, and you're going to be like, that was mad hard. That didn't feel good. That made me uncomfortable. It brought up some emotions that don't sit well with me. And it may feel agitated. And it's okay. And that's the thing I wanted to tell as, a myth that I've often heard is people like, oh, you just do yoga and you're instantly going to be happy and you're going to enjoy every single class. You may enjoy some classes. You may not. The thing with yoga is it is a discipline. It's not a recreational sport. And as we talked about or I mentioned earlier, it's a practice. Like a practice, think about if you took piano lessons or any other type of musical lessons or dance lessons, it was a practice. It took effort. And that's the same thing with yoga. It takes practice and takes effort and it takes discipline. Some days you're going to like it, and let me help you out right now. Some days you're not. Some days you just are going to be like, why did I sign up for this? Like, I have 2 teachers who I adore and love. They are amazing. I love their classes. But I know some days I'm going to take those classes and I'm going to be like, why did I torture myself? I may feel better afterwards, but I'm in the midst of the class. I'm like, this is not the best, because part of yoga is about helping you to rewire your brain, release the mental and emotional blocks. And think about it. If you're releasing and getting rid of like some bad habits, your ego's like, this isn't our comfort zone. Danger, resistant. We need to resist. And that's what's going on. And sometimes in these yoga practices, you are doing things that are changing your way that you move. They're rewiring your brain. They're releasing emotional and mental blocks. And so it's going to feel uncomfortable because there's that resistance that the ego is trying to keep you safe because it doesn't know that you're doing something to make your life better. It just knows this isn't our normal spot. So we're going to tell you, resist, it's going to be uncomfortable. Oh, focus in on the pain. So part of it that I want you guys to know is that, yeah, yoga can be blissful. It could be the most amazing practice you ever do in your life. And you may have like a moment where you're like, I literally feel like I just was like taking some shrooms and on an ecstasy trip, though I've never done ecstasy, but I'm going to go with on an ecstasy trip or something like that. But with that comes the pain. There's pain and pleasure. There's ups and downs in all aspects of this journey. You can't have one without the other, because it's really hard to know joy if you don't know the struggle. It's hard to get past something and shift and change and rewire things without the ego, the nervous system, and the body saying, danger, this doesn't feel right. I don't know the situation. It's okay to have those moments, but I want you going into a practice not feeling like, oh, well, this didn't work because I didn't feel good. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't come away feeling like I was like just smoked the best weed ever of my life. Some days you're going to have those moments. Some days you're not. And it's okay. So that's the first big myth that I wanted to talk about. The other one, and this one got me, and it got me for many, many years, is that the myth that you must be flexible and physically fit to do yoga. If there was Instagram when I started trying to do yoga, I don't think I would have tried. And I actually will say right now, there's times, because Instagram's been around for a while, but I would say even now I look at some of the yoga posts, because I get a lot of them in my, my feed at this point as a yoga teacher. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, your leg is behind your head, or you're doing a headstand, hands are up somewhere. You're doing some crazy back bend. It makes you feel, if you're not one of those people, like, okay, in order for me to do yoga, I need to be a gymnast. I need to be an acrobatist. I need to have my second job be Circus du Soleil. But that's not most of us. I need to be able to touch my toes and maybe even lick my toes with my tongue. I can't do any of those things. And I'm okay with that. And I'm a teacher. But if you let that lie, that misconception that you need to be flexible, you need to be able to touch your toes before you can take a practice, that's going to stop a lot of people. And that's a huge reason why I wanted to have this conversation today, is because there's so many myths that stop people from even trying yoga that they don't even get to experience it for themselves, because they're like, oh, well, I'm not flexible. I can't do it. Oh, I'm this size. I can't do yoga. Oh, I have to be physically fit. Oh, I can't do yoga. No, I will say that there are some yoga practices and types of yoga that focus in on the physical poses. And yeah, you may dang near need to be flexible for some of those. I have tried those, and I realized that that type of yoga is not for me. But there's other types of yoga where you don't have to be flexible to do yoga. Yoga Nidra, which is a yoga that's just about sleeping. You don't really need to be too flexible to be lying on your back and getting this goodness called Yoga Nidra. Kundalini Yoga, which is the yoga that I teach, most of the class is in a seated position. Yeah, you need to probably be in easy pose, which is with your legs crossed. And my hips are a little bit tight. So what do? I sit up on a cushion. I sit up on a blanket, and I feel better. I don't have to have this flexibility to sit in that position. And if you can't do that as well with Kundalini Yoga, at least I can tell you for sure, and I know this with other types of yoga, there's modifications. You can sit in a chair. There's other things you can do. So you don't need to be able to touch your toes. You don't need to be able to do a back bend and do a wheel and all these different things. There's always a modification in any yoga practice for wherever you are. What I like to tell my students is, think of yourself as a balloon. And as a balloon, you want to blow the balloon up. The balloon is getting big and it's round and it's getting its shape. And you want to do that. That's part of the resistance and kind of getting to that edge that you want to get to in yoga. But what you don't want to do is be that balloon that pops. So you want to be able to get to that edge of your edge and making sure that it's your edge and not someone else's edge, and not going past your capacity. I know that's what I did when I first started doing yoga. I would always feel like, oh my God, everyone else is doing these crazy poses. They're doing the headstands. Boom, I've hurt my neck. Oh, they're stretching a certain way. Boom, I've pulled a muscle. Because I was stretching past my edge. I was going to what someone else was telling me my edge. And so if the teacher's telling me, go past your edge, that might not be the teacher for you. No one knows your body better than you. So honor that body. Honor your flexibility and know that there are so many different types of yoga that you don't have to be so flexible for. You don't have to be physically fit for all types of yoga. It's all about knowing your balance and knowing your capacity and working within that. The next lie, myth that I really can't stand about yoga, and it's one that I get often, especially when I'm talking about the type of yoga that I teach, is everyone's like, oh, well, all yoga is the same. Like I've done yoga and it didn't work for me. Kundalini yoga is so different than any other form of yoga I've ever experienced. Yes, are there similarities? Of course there's some similarities, but it's different than a hatha class or a vinyasa class. I think a hatha and vinyasa class are kind of what most people think about when they think about yoga. And if you aren't really familiar with the different yoga types, go back and look through the feed and you'll see I did a whole podcast on different types, explaining different types of yoga. But there's so many different types of yoga that you can't say all yoga is the same. Bikram yoga which is when you're in a heated room, is mad different than doing restorative yoga or doing yin yoga or doing jivanuti yoga or doing Kemet yoga or doing womb yoga. They're all completely different. They have some similarities where there's movement. There may be breath work. There may be chanting. There's many different things. The reality is there is not a singular form of yoga. There's not just one type of yoga. There's many. There's yogas that use props. There's yogas that don't use props. I don't use props in any of my classes. There's yoga practices where the teacher will assist students. We don't assist students in Kundalini yoga. So finding the right type of yoga practice for you is just as important as knowing that you ain't got to be flexible. And if that's what you want, there's a yoga for you. But knowing that there are different types is a game changer, because if you think that there's only one type and the one type that you tried wasn't for you and you're like, oh, well, yoga's not for me because that one type didn't work, that's because you bought into that lie that there's only all yoga is the same, and it's totally not the same. So those are the 3 lies. And let's get into the truth. The truth that I wanted to give you guys today is one that I resonate with a lot. And the truth is, yoga is just as much of a mental practice as it is a physical practice. Yoga shifts the emotions through physical movement, through breath work. Perfect example is thinking about in yoga, you're doing a lot of navel work, especially, again, in the yoga that I know, and that's why I'm able to speak about that a little bit more. But in Kundalini, we do a lot of work in the solar plexus area, which is like your navel point area. And doing that core work in that stomach area region is really helpful to help you digest food. But it's also helpful to help you digest aspects of your life. It's help you to digest past feelings, past emotions. It helps you better control your emotions and handle life, the triggers that stress life that throws at you. And so a huge part of that may be physical, but the other aspect of that is focusing in on the mental aspect of it. The other part I was talking about is breath. Breath is a huge component in yoga, and breath has been scientifically proven to help calm your nervous system down, help reduce stress, help clear the brain fog, and it helps you live in the present moment through these breathing exercises that we do. And so I do strongly feel and know from my own personal connection that through yoga, I have been able to have not only a deeper connection with my breath, which helps me change my mindset, but it's helped me have a deeper connection with myself. I mean, they say that Kundalini yoga is the yoga of awareness and transformation, and it has, because I show up differently, not because I moved my arm 50 million times and did, planks and cobras and archer pose and breath of fire. No, it's because part of this practice, through the mantras, through the asanas, through the meditations, through the deep relaxation, and through being consistent with the practice, I've been able to shift my mindset and see the mental aspect of this practice. A huge part of yoga that people don't think about is it's not about how long you do yoga. Like, oh, okay, it's going to be better if I do like 12 hours of yoga straight. May be good for you, may not be good for you. I feel that it's more about being consistent. So if you're only doing 3 minutes a day, like for us, you can do 3 minutes of Kriya. You can do 3 minutes of Breath of Fire, Ego Eradicator. But being consistent and doing your practice daily, even if it's a short or long period of time, I feel it's going to make a larger difference in your life. The reality of it all is I want you to realize that it's time for you to figure out on your own if this is right for you. I can tell you there's all these misconceptions. I can tell you a truth that's changed my life about yoga. But the reality of it is it's important for you to try it yourself and you to figure out, is this right for you? And is, a certain type of yoga right for you? And versus you thinking, oh, well, Betty Jean told me that I had to, it wasn't a real workout and it was only just stretching, or I had to be flexible, or I had to be a size 2 to do yoga, or if I wasn't feeling blissful and all zenned out, then I wasn't doing it right and I should just give up now. No, figure it out for yourself. Let you be the decider of your life. You be the decider if this practice, and I say practice because it takes some effort, is right for you or not. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if this has helped you kind of reposition your thought process, reimagine what yoga can look like for you. If you're interested, you can always send me a message via Instagram, or you can reach out to me via email. Other than that, I love you and I will see you next week. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.